Welcome, everybody. Welcome into Sew in Common, home of the Build a Quilt system. I'm Diana. I'm the owner and designer here at Sew in Common. I'm thrilled to have you all with us this week for our regular Sunday video. And let me start by saying welcome, welcome, welcome to all of our new subscribers. Over 850 new subscribers this week. We are like a hair's width from reaching 5,000 subscribers in this group. And that to me is amazing. That means I get to share my love of quilting with at least 5,000 people every week. And I think that's pretty cool. So welcome to everyone. So in case you are new here at Sew in Common, we build our quilt segments and our quilts in the hoop of our embroidery machine. That's right. And then for larger blocks and to put our large quilt tops together, we just use a simple guideline on each piece to sew them together on our machines, our sewing machines. But the cool thing is you don't need a 1/4 inch foot because you have your 1/4 inch guideline built right in. You can trace that line with your needle, you're going to get a perfect seam allowance every single time. And so I know a lot of you that have been with me for a while have started because you were having problems with your hands. Some of you were like, I cannot get this 1/4 inch thing. And that's great because, or that's okay because all of our seam allowances are built into our pieces. And so we're thrilled to have you all with us. So whether you are a quilter and have been a quilter for a long time or you're brand new, that's what we do here. We build beautiful blocks like these that you see behind us. And today's video is our Quilt Lab Kaleidoscope quilt. Now, if you watched last week's video, which I will link at the end of today's video, it was all about quilts in translation. How do I take a quilt block that I love and turn it in from a traditional type quilting or piecing to the Build a Quilt system? And a lot of you know we have our Build a Quilt basic block set available on our website. I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video. But how do you do that with that? Well, our Build a Quilt system is a great way to start because that gives you 3 of the most basic blocks to do it. And so I walked you through that last week. You'll see that in last week's video if you watched that one. But then at the end, I told you that I had taken a pattern from one of my favorite quilters. I love Lori Holt. I bet a lot of you know Lori Holt. And I bet some of you even have or have seen her Kaleidoscope book. Now, Lori's company that she publishes and all through is Be in My Bonnet, or that's her company name. But I have a lot of her books. I've used her books for teaching new kids how to sew that come over. And like my niece and all, I taught her to sew how to quilt with the Farm Girl book many years ago. So I know that a lot of you know Lori and that you love her stuff. So I loved this book when it came out. And I've had it since before I started doing a Build a Quilt system, before I started creating that. I was just because I've been a traditional quilter for 55 plus years. Ooh, yeah. But you know what? You're only as old as you think you are up here. And my birthday is just a number. And that number's unlisted. Isn't that a commercial or something? Yeah, my number's unlisted. Anyway, this book, I love this pattern. Now, I have not created the pattern as Lori has it here, although it's beautiful and you could certainly do it. But what I did, she has, and I will tell you too, in this book, oh, I should just say, Lori Holt doesn't know me, and Lori Holt has not paid me to promote this book in any way, shape, or form. If she ever sees this, hi, Lori. I hope you enjoy the fact that I love your book. But another thing that she's done in this book, because she also does cross stitch. Now, I will say I used to be a cross stitch designer many, many, many years ago. And in this book, she even has cross stitch patterns. So if you're a cross stitcher as well, you're kind of getting double duty with this book. But what she did was she's done the quilt, but she also did these pillows, different sizes. And they are, instead of a white background in color in the square, she's done the backgrounds in color and the square, the piece, the kaleidoscope part in white. I love that look. Oh, it makes me very happy to see all of that color there. In fact, let's see if I can show you another picture in here because, gosh, they are so pretty. And I will just say, check with your local fabric shop to see if they carry this book. I also think you could probably get it at the Fat Quarter Shop online. Again, they don't know me at the Fat Quarter Shop. That's where I got mine. But look at all of these beautiful colors in here. These are all Lori's fabric lines. And I believe they're probably still available because I bought my fabric not too long ago. But I've had this and had this and had this. And I've been meaning to take this one block and create it into a bigger quilt. So what I did with the Build a Quilt system, I talked about last week in the Quilts and Translation video, I've turned it in to a 40 by 40 quilt. Now that's a great wall hanging. If you have a nice big open space, perfect. Or if you have a child who just wants a snuggly quilt, maybe to have on quilt night, or maybe you're a college student, because I know we have a lot of younger quilters with us. I love that. I love it. I love that you guys are into quilting, because that's how quilting keeps moving on is, you learn and you grow. Trust me, you grow old as a quilter because you'll quilt the rest of your life. You might stop during different times. I know I did because of, family and going to graduate school, all that stuff. But quilting will always be with you, right? Even if you just enjoy it as an art form, quilting will always be a part of your life once you start. So if you're a college student, maybe you just want like a throw for your bed or something to kind of wrap around you while you're studying and things like that. A 40 by 40 is a good, like just a little shoulder wrap size, I think, or to put across your lap and stuff while you're sitting there studying and eating the popcorn and stuff. That's what I did in college. I ate a lot of popcorn. So you could make this bigger, but I thought 40 by 40 was great. So with our Build a Quilt system, I used my 5-inch finished blocks and I translated this pattern into that 40 by 40 size. And so here are all a bunch of those segments that I created. And now I've had to lay it out and I've sewn it all together. So today's video is going to be mainly walking you through some of the stitching, how I laid it out, the goof that I made. So you would think at my age I could count, but apparently I cannot. And you'll see that later in the video. I missed 2. I made 2 of the wrong blocks. I made 2 extra solids and I needed to make 2 extra half square triangles, but I fixed that pretty quick. And I'll show you my marking system when I lay out so I know how everything is supposed to go. And then at the end, you'll see the quilt top done, but I have not started the quilting yet. I'm still in the process. I don't rush quilts, especially quilts that I make for myself. I like to make sure that I'm getting them just how I want them, because they're either going to be hanging on my walls or I'm going to be giving them to someone I love and care about, family, a friend, somebody's child, something. If you get a quilt from me, it's just full of love, because that's how I make my quilts, full of love. And so when I think about my quilting, I like to do that in a meaningful process, which can take a little time. So in next week's video, I'll tell you right now, next Sunday's video will be all about the quilting of this Kaleidoscope quilt. So I do not tell you, I'll be frank with you, because this pattern is the sole property of Lori Holt. So I don't tell you what I did to change this. Just I tell you that I have translated it, but it's super duper easy, because in the translation video, I kind of explained to you how to translate patterns. So it's super duper to translate this into the Build a Quilt system if you want to do it. Now, In future videos, I'm going to be translating quilt patterns into that Build-A-Block system for you that are my blocks, or that are just blocks out there in the universe that have no like copyright and ownership attached to them. But if you want to translate this block, then you would need to purchase Lori's book. Okay. Now, I think even out on the website, there might be a free table runner. In fact, I know there was, I don't know if it's still there. When I got mine, there was a free table runner pattern out there. And so what I did when I was doing my translation is I used some of these free pieces that I had to print out as my piece to kind of sketch on for my translating, because there's just one segment in that quilt block that has to be translated into squares rather than into rectangles. So, but you can figure that out when you get this. And by all means, get it anyway, because it will, there's so much more information than just the pattern in here. And I tell you in last week's video how to use, you know, when you're doing your segments, you use the Build a Quilt measurement information to build these blocks. But in here, there's so much information. Lori has so many different things in here that will help you and guide you. In fact, one of the nice things in here is I didn't talk about doing any kind of a border. So there's all that information in here if you want to add a border. We're going to have border segments coming out in a Build a Quilt set a little later. If not by the end of this year, it will definitely be coming out in early 2024, so that you can even build your borders that way too, if you like. Right now, you could use half square triangles, quarter square triangles, or squares and piece them that way. I mean, you already have information, but if you want to do longer rectangles, that's coming. But she also lays out all of her fabrics. So this fabric that she uses is her what's this called? I think it's called her B fabric. B cross stitch. That's what it's called. And of course, because look at it, cross stitches. Isn't it cute? It's so pretty. I chose this blue, which isn't typically my color, right? I'm more of, you guys know me that have been around. You know exactly what color I'm going to turn to and tell you is my color. I hear some of you out there saying it. Yeah. So like that aqua-ish color, and the reds and the magenta, my colors. But I decided where I want to put this, and because it's kind of a nice blending color for my area where I'm going to hang this quilt, that I would use this beautiful blue. Let's see, which one is this? I'll tell you which one it is. This is it the denim? Yeah. This is the C745. That's the SKU number, or the color dot number. I'm not sure on this, but this is what it says. C745 denim. And I'm all about denim. So, I mean, I live in denim. So, that's the color I used. And then I just chose a white from my stash, one that I knew I had enough of to make mine. But look at all the colors. So if you wanted to do this quilt with this fabric, I'm pretty sure you can get this fabric still. In fact, if I can find it in that color right there, that cottage, called Cottage, I'm making another one. Oh, I love it. I love that color. So in this video, first thing I'm going to show you is how I've laid it out and how I've tagged it for sewing it together. Then I'll show you a segment on sewing your pieces together. And then we'll come back to this camera and I will show you it finished. Okay, so again, one more quick time. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Older subscribers, I mean, ones that have been with me for a while, or new subscribers, welcome to everyone. I love having you all here with us so much. You guys are so fantastic. And we'll talk more about where you can find the Build a Quilt system or where you can post your own photographs. I want to start seeing photographs. Please, guys, please start posting your photographs. And again, I'll talk about our Snowball Table Runner contest too, because you have a chance to win our Build a Quilt system. Okay, so let's go over and check out how I lay this out and how I get this piece together into one big top with my sewing machine and all. Alrighty. Okay, everybody, here is the Kaleidoscope quilt laid out on my design board. These are all of my squares, except for 2. Let's take a look. So I thought I had counted really carefully, but it looks like I need to whip up 2 more half square triangles, which should take me like all of 5 minutes, right? Because they go really quickly. But that is the full layout, and I'll end up with a 40 by 40 quilt. Now that quilt's big enough for a child if you would rather give it to a child, but this is going to be a wall hanging in our home. I have a vaulted ceiling in my front of my home, and it has a big open wall space above an archway that is dying for a quilt. And so I've always wanted to make quilts about this size and put them up there throughout the year. So that's where this is probably going to go. But I need to go back to my machine real quick and whip up 2 more half square triangles, because what I did, you can kind of see them as I'm walking past over here, is I created the right number, but I created 1 extra white square and 1 extra blue square. So I'm going to turn those into my half square triangles. And then I'm done with all of my squares. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit different than something you might normally do. But now that this is all laid out on my board, I'm going to take little clips and little pieces of paper, and I am going to number each one across the row. Row 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Row 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4 across, and so on down. So then I can take this down, and I won't have to have it all laying up there, because the second someone walks past this, or I walk past it, because I'll be the only one, I'm going to end up knocking some of this off of the design wall. So I am going to end up taking them down once they're marked, and where I will clip the little tag will be in the upper left-hand corner of each one. So I know that that's the upper left-hand corner of my block, so that when I go to sew them together, I'm sewing them together in the right direction, because you could easily flip them or get them in the wrong order. And then as I do each row, I'll place each row back up on the design wall, and then start sewing my top half together and my bottom half. So what I'll do after I've sewn each row together, and what I will do, let's look up here at the top here, since there's 8, whoops, I just tripped on something. I will sew 1, 2, 3, 4 together, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, then sew those 2 halves, and I'll work my way down the quilt that way. And then there are also 8 rows up and down, or 8 rows in total, so I can split it in half, 4 and 4. So I'll do those 2 rows together, and then those 2 rows together, and then I'll put those 2 sections together, and then I'll repeat that at the bottom as well. And I'll show you that a little bit more as we go, but I wanted to show you. There it is. Isn't it going to be pretty? I love it. All right, so here's a question for you all, and you can put a note in the comments. What color should I use for my binding? I'm probably going to use the blue fabric for my backing, because I think I have enough of it. So should I use that for the binding? Should I use white for the binding? Or should I go a little crazy and do maybe a red binding or some completely different color to get a pop of color on the whole quilt? That sounds like something I might think about doing. So let me know in the comments. Until next time, sew life beautiful. Okay, so here are my 8 rows all tagged. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's 8 across the row. And up in the corner, I tell you what row it is. So this is row number 5. And the significance, you can also see that they're all clipped in the upper left-hand corner. This tells me that when I pull this square, this is the orientation it should be sewn in. I should sew my piece number 2 right here on this edge, because this is the top left, bottom right, and so forth, because all of these are tagged in the upper left-hand corner. And then I can, as I do the rows, then I'll re-tag an upper left corner for each row so I know what the rows are. And this is another good reason to have lots of quilting clips. Let me just remove a few things out of my dish here. And you can see this is just one bucket of clips that I have, and I have about 3 of them. So I probably have close to 2,000 quilting clips at least. And I bet some of you do too. You can let me know in the comments if you are a quilting clip hoarder like I am. It's always a good idea to have lots of quilting clips, because then you can use them for lots of things. And since you're going to be doing 2 at once, you'll always have 2 clips to clip your pieces together while you're sewing them. All right, now we can move on to the next stage, which is going to be sewing our rows together. And I'll start right here on row number 1. Okay, everybody, so we're here at my sewing machine, and I am going to show you how you would stitch 2 blocks together. Now, I am actually stitching together one of the long strips. So let me flip the camera. So here is one of the long rows that I've stitched together, and I am going to show you how I stitch this together. Now, you can see my line right here. That gives me a perfect 1/4 inch. Let me also tell you that I set my stitch length to 1.8 or 2. So I make it a little bit shorter, and I put my needle 1 stitch or just 1 click to the inside of this line so that it rides right on that inside edge. Okay? Now, I'm going to sew this very slowly so that you can see what I'm doing, and so that I can get it right while I'm holding this camera, because I don't have a camera stand that will adjust properly. But you can see, let's just stop. I am riding the inside edge of that line, and when I'm done, I will have the perfect 1/4 inch seam. And I do that connecting every single block, every single row, and every single column if there's a column. Almost done. And so when you're doing this, of course, you can stitch a whole lot faster, right? Because you're not holding your camera. Okay, so here we are. There we are. Now my 2 pieces are stitched together perfectly. Now I'm going to flip this over because I want to show you the back. So here are my seams, and I have just finger pressed them open because I will have to, well, I don't have to, but I'm going to wash out my stabilizer. Watch my stabilizer video for this process to see how you do that. If you use the wash away stabilizer like I recommend. But all I do at this point is open those up, and see, you can see there are my guidelines. They're hidden inside the seam now. That's exactly what I want. And I just put that like that, and it will now lay nice and flat. And now I can flip it back over and put my next piece on top of this one and sew my next one together. All right, let's move on to our next segment. Okay, everybody, so obviously not my design wall. This is in my bedroom, but once I piece things out in rows, they don't like to stick on my design board very well. So I lay them out on our bed. So here I have all 8 rows because this 40 by 40 quilt only took 8 rows. And you can see they're together, but they are not sewn together yet and finished. So I'll be doing that next. But I wanted to show you how I mark these. So before, when I had everything laid out, every square was tagged. But this way, once I do the rows, I just take the first tag that I made. So row 1, 1, row 2, 1, row 3, 1, and so forth. I just reuse those same tags all the way down to my last row. Now what I will do is I will sew 1 and 2 together, then I will sew 3 and 4 together, and then I will sew this section and this section together. Then I will move down and do 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and then I will put this section with this section, and then I will fold each half, the bottom half on top of the top half, and sew the 2 halves together, and my quilt top will be done. So the next little bit I'm going to show you is how I clip 2 rows together to make sure that I get my points and things lined up from row to row. So that's coming next. Okay, so I have 2 rows together now, and I want to show you kind of how I clip these. I start here right in the center. It's easier when you open your seams to get your seams to line up. And then if you want to flip them one to one side and one to the other side, if you're doing that, that's fine. But I would open them while you're clipping them, so that you know that you're right on where you need to be. You can use the straight pin method, which is what I do down here at the end. I go through that corner and I go through the corner on the other side, and then I kind of just leave the pin there until I get ready to sew. That way I know I am starting right where I need to be. And then I have clipped all of the joins on one side, and then all of the joins on the other side as well. And the other thing I do, you can kind of see this clip and this clip, and they're not in any specific place. That's because they still have the tags on them, what rows they are. Now, this one that is for tag 8, which is the bottom row, I can take it off and out. I don't need it, but I need to know that when I flip this open, I need to know which is going to be my top row. And so I just leave this in there. And then when I add the next section on, I'll do the same. So that's how I do my my lineup for joining my rows together. Now I'm going to go sew them all together, and the next time you see this quilt top, it'll be done. Okay, everybody, I know this might be a little dark, but I've got this hanging in my hallway at the moment. That is Kaleidoscope 40 by 40. The original pattern layout or design is from Lori Holt, and I translated it into the Build-A-Quilt system. Isn't it gorgeous? I just absolutely love it. And then for next week's video, we'll talk about and work on how I am going to quilt this. And I'm going to talk to you about how I get the wash away stabilizer out. I've done a very detailed video on that already, but I'm trying something with this full-size quilt. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, if you decide to do a full-size quilt and then remove your wash away stabilizer, do not put it in your washing machine. The agitation will eat up your quilt. So I have figured out another way to soak this whole thing with no agitation and get that stabilizer out. So we'll talk about that more next week as well, and you'll see it all nice and pressed and looking a little bit better than that, or than it is now. But Didn't it turn out pretty? I just absolutely love it. I think I think it's going to look beautiful where I'm going to hang it, and I'm going to love it. So now let's go back over to my main camera, and we'll finish up today's video. Okay, everybody, we're back for the final part of our video now. Didn't the kaleidoscope turn out pretty? I love it. I hope you all love it. I love it. That's what you can do with our Build-A-Quilt system. This was the kaleidoscope pattern. I have Lori Holt's book. You would need to purchase her book separately. I told you earlier in the video places where you can get it, and then translate the block. Really easy to do. I translated just one block and blew it up into that 40 by 40 quilt. I love it so much. It's going to be hard for me to figure out my quilting on it. So if you have some ideas, let me know. If you have ideas about, I'm thinking of using a variegated thread, maybe some variegated blues or something for the quilting, because it's that bee cross stitch fabric is called denim, I believe. And so I thought some different, like a blue variegated might be really beautiful for that. And I'm thinking maybe some medallion right there in that white center, and then maybe just some general stippling around the rest of it or something. But if you have some thoughts, let me know down in the comments, because I love you guys, inspire me with your thoughts as well. So because it's going to be hard to figure that out. And like I said at the end of the last little section, I will share with you some more tips for soaking out the stabilizer on a full-size quilt. But please, I beg of you, don't use your washing machine. I've already had that question from one of our great followers. I'm not going to say her name, but hi. She knows who she is. And it's a great question to put the whole thing in the washer. But I actually tried that like 2 years ago on a quilt. And it ended up such a knotted, frayed, crazy mess. And it's because of the agitation. Even in our front-loading drum washers, there's still agitation, and it pretty much ruined my quilt top. I sobbed for hours while I tried to iron it all out, and I ironed it out well enough that I was able to finish it up, and I use it as just a throw quilt in the living room. I couldn't give it away. I had to redo the gift that I was making it for. So please don't use your washing machine. But I will give you some more tips next week when we talk about the actual quilting, the finished quilting. And I'll even kind of go over my process and stuff with you there, because I know a lot of you want to know more about the actual finished quilting too, because that can help you whether you're doing the Build-A-Block system or any type of quilting. And I know somebody's going to say, Diana, your hair looks different than the beginning. So in the meantime, I've had to go get x-rays today because I have an old injury on my shoulder here and my neck and my collarbone. And we thought I re-injured it, and we thought maybe I had dislocated my collarbone and all. No, my collarbone has just been this way since my original injury many years ago, and I just didn't notice it. But I did re-injure the shoulder and had to go get some x-rays. It was a hot, kind of messy day today, so or yesterday, because you're seeing this Sunday, but I filmed it on Saturday. So that's why I might look just a little bit different and a little pink, because it was hot today. Even with my sunscreen, I got a little bit of a suntan out there, which I'm not supposed to do because I'm allergic to the sun. Anyway, that's why I look different from the beginning of the video. All right, so kaleidoscope done. I'm telling you already, I'm already thinking about making another one or two. In fact, I'm thinking of making one with some larger, with this one, I'm not going to put any border on it. I'm going to bind it and be done. I want it to be just the way it is. But I'm thinking of making another one and adding some fun borders on it as a gift for my nephew and his wife. They'll never see it, but you know, just in cases. So I'm thinking about doing that for them so that they have like a nice throw. Because if you took that 40 by 40, put a couple of borders on it, added some length. It would be a nice throw size. Alrighty, folks. So that was our Kaleidoscope quilt. I hope you all enjoyed going through this project with me. Like I said earlier as well, I'll be doing some more translation blocks for you all coming in the near future. And if you need to get a hold of me, of course you can at support@sewuncommon.com, or leave your comments here because I get those and I'll answer them. That's not a problem at all. Now, if you want or still need to get this month's block of the month, Mirror Mirror, because let's not forget that the Kaleidoscope was like a whole nother part of our stuff for this month. But this is our block of the month, Kaleidoscope, Mirror Mirror. That's my block design. You can get it or the Sew Uncommon Build-A-Block system or any of our other free blocks, like our quadrifoil is still there. Our snowball blocks are still there. All the free blocks we've had so far in 2023 are all there through the end of the year. And you can get those at our website, sewuncommon.com. And please help yourself. Somebody came in today and got like 20 some patterns. I think she was catching up. And so cool. That's totally fine by me. You go for it. If you want to still be a part of the snowball contest, the Dirty Snowball Table Runner Topper, you can be. You just have to post your picture over at our Facebook page, Sew Uncommon, no later than the end of the day on the 31st of August. There is a video with that information. I'll tag it at the end of this video so you can click and watch and get all of the information that you need for that. So is there anything else that I need to tell you? I don't think so. Like I said, next week we'll start talking about the quilting for that. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. That is a 40 by 40 quilt. Think about taking maybe your Mirror Mirror block and expanding it out, making several of them. So if this is 15 by 15, 3 of them is going to give you 45 inches across, right? 15 and 15 is 30 and 15 is 45. So if you did 3 over and 3 down, you would have a 40 by 40 topper or wall hanging. That would be lovely. You could do each block differently if you wanted to. Do it all scrappy. Do it all in a curated color scheme. That would be beautiful. Try your first larger piece out with one of the free blocks. It's super simple for you to do. You know what your finished block size is going to be, then just extrapolate out how many you need to do a quilt. And if you wanted to do a bigger quilt, do it that. I love quilts that are all one block, like this one, but a bunch of them. I think those are beautiful quilts. Or you could, let's see, do we have anything in here that isn't? Oh, so this is our, this one isn't in our block of our Build-A-Block system. So, but that's a 5, no, it's not a 5-inch finished either. So you couldn't use that. But remember, you could translate it. You could make all 4 of those into half squares or quarter square triangles. That's in our Build-A-Block system. So maybe take this pattern and in these 4 here, do your quarter square triangles and blow that up into a bigger. If you did the 5-inch blocks, 5, 10, you would get 15, 20. You'd get a 20 by 20. You'd get a 20 by 20 if you did all 5-inch blocks with this. Okay, so do 4 20 by 20s with the Build-A-Quilt system, and you'd have a big 40 by 40 wall hanging, and you could do each of the 4 quadrants, spring, summer, winter, fall, and winter colors or something like that. So just let your mind kind of go. Look in magazines. This is a tip I want to give you all because I noticed this week and I thought, I got a little catalog from a home decor place. I don't even know what the place is called, to be quite honest. But I ordered something from them a couple Christmases ago for decor on the outside of the house, and now I get their stuff all the time. And I was looking through it the other night while we were watching television, and they have like quilts in there, right? Mass produced, that's fine. I'm not going to say them nay, but mass produced quilts. And then they had wall hangings that were wooden quilt patterns. So I thought, oh, well, I just ripped a couple of those pages out for inspiration, right? So look in your magazines, your home improvement magazines, things like that. Quilts are becoming popular in high-end decor now. We've known they were fabulous forever, right? But they are becoming popular in high-end decor. So you see those in magazines and stuff, rip those pages out and stick them in your inspiration book. That would be a lot of fun for you to do. Alrighty, everybody. Please, if you like this video, if you like what you've been seeing, and a lot of you are, because 850 of you subscribed this week, again, thank you all. Thank you to all of our subscribers who have been with me from the very beginning of Sew in Common. You all mean the world to me. I wish we could get in a room together and quilt together. I know we'd have a blast, but please subscribe to the channel. If you're someone that's been around a long time and watch but haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button, because we'd love to count you amongst our subscribers and to be officially a part of the Sew in Common family. Okay, everybody? So click subscribe, please. Click the notification bell so that you get notified when content comes out, because I do something every Sunday, but I do stuff during the week too. And our short videos, those little short videos that are less than a minute, those are full of lots of tips and tricks. Some of them are just like inviting and stuff like that, but a lot of them, I put in tips and tricks and things in there for you. So please watch those as well. And you get notified when all that stuff comes out. All right, everybody, until next week, you know what I'm going to say. Or if you're new and you haven't yet, this is what I say every time we finish our time together. Go sew life beautiful. Every time you make a quilt and send it out into the world or put it in your home, you're making the world a more beautiful place with your own piece of art. Until next time, bye-bye, everybody.